All right, here we go. Yeah, that works. That's fine. I had to put a headband on because it's really hot in here and I can't stop sweating all over the place. And I'm standing because I fell for the standing desk meme and I was like, I don't need a chair. Do you know how hard it is to be productive on something that I can just walk away from without even having to stand up first? Sitting is bad for you though. Nobody's supposed to sit as much as we sit now. Sitting has made us docile, and if you hunch when you sit, you're definitely fucked. Your chakras are all out of alignment, and you are not reaching enlightenment on this go-around. I'm joking, but I am going to try to be serious now, because this is a serious production, and I'm just not a very serious guy. Things might look a little more serious in here if I had, put foam up on the walls, done something for the sound. But I was also worried that if I padded the walls in here, it would make it too comfy of a place for me to finish losing my mind in. And I might be sweating because this is last minute. I had other plans. But I decided that it's better I keep this simple, because symbols are a complex enough topic as it is. And we deal in symbolism all the time without even considering it. A lot of it is intuitive, subtle, not even consciously understood as symbolism. You see a gear in the corner of the screen on a menu, and you know that today that leads to some kind of settings page. Language is an obvious form of symbolism that's meant to be understood and facilitate communication. The letter A is probably cognizable even by non-Latin language users. Historically, pictographs were used before letters, and in the case of something like Chinese, you can even see the shift towards more iconic characters away from more explicitly representative pictographs. But some of that is still there. Like, that looks like a chicken. Hieroglyphics are a great example of a pictographic language system. Some people will tell you that this hieroglyph, which means 1 million, depicts a man shocked at how large the number is. As if he's saying, bro, it's fucking huge. It's a shit ton. It's like this much. Now, it's actually derivative of the god He, who is an anthropomorphized representation of millions of years, or the infinite. To someone who didn't already know that, though, the symbol doesn't clearly convey the idea of an integer or 1 million, but it is a guy doing this. It's fucking big. It's a lot. There is also esoteric symbolism, intended to be understood, but only by those with certain requisite knowledge. And time has a way of obscuring things, rendering them esoteric as in the case of 1 million. As an example of an intentionally esoteric but widely recognized symbol, the square and compass. Purportedly, the square is meant to indicate honesty, the compass control over the passions, and the G standing as a reminder for God. Or depending on who you ask, geometry or even gnosis. The position of the arms in relation to the square can have their own meaning, but for our purposes, the basic bitch interpretations will do just fine. And at the risk of greatly demystifying things, these guys are basically just about anglicized Hermetic and Gnostic knowledge. And now you might be like, oh, that's not that spooky after all. But they are. They are spooky. A prime example of something both esoteric and confused by time is Baphomet. It used to bother me that modern Satanism had adopted it as its own symbol, but I actually really like the idea that the Templars are flexing on them eternally from beyond. The Templars might actually be flexing on everyone from beyond, now that I think about it. As a duality symbol, the yin-yang wins on clarity. But I don't want to fuck the yin-yang, now do I? Alchemy is an occult system so well hidden that to this day, people still think of it as nothing more than a rudimentary form of chemistry. The esoteric tradition as conceived of and practiced in Egypt was about the purification and ascendance of an individual's spirit. The transmutation of base lead into noble gold served as a form of symbolic argot. And if some of that comes off as too remedial or overly simplified, it's only because I had no idea where to start. Because I thought about it, and as it turns out, it's all symbols. It's symbols all the way down, dude. The physical world is a user interface, and it's like a hologram made of vibrating particles. It's fucking weird. And the physical form of something is both a symbol for that thing and then is symbolically interpreted by other entities. As far as I'm concerned, the entire physical plane is a symbolic one. And one of the oldest spiritual or religious propositions goes something like, hey, you know all this shit is a construct, right? Now, people are acting on that information differently. Some people really hate the construct. Some people are into it. The modern analog for this is simulation hypothesis, and like all modern secular analogs, it's not as cool as the tradition it's aping. When I refer to the material world as being a construct, don't take it to mean that it isn't real at all. It's exactly as real as it is. Just consider that physical forms are not the totality of things, but representative of them. As an example, sun worship is something of a misnomer these days. The secularized modern human might believe that people saw the sun and simply thought that that was God. Instead, the sun was often understood as a physical symbol used to represent God. The sun is God, and the sun is a symbol for God are two totally different ideas. Now, Hermeticism is almost clinical. It lacks any sort of fun mythos to grab onto, but it does accurately describe reality. And Zoroastrian metaphysics are probably correct, but they're superimposed on an epic story of good versus evil, the indomitable spirit, and the fallen realm of material. Gnosticism? Gnosticism is basically 80 plus sects of autistic schizo posting, and it has such a fucking awesome story that one of the main figures is eternally demonized and associated to another guy that has nothing to do with him because a fire-headed cloud-bound snake is retarded and or evil. I kind of stand Gnosticism a little. Rebellion against some kind of evil, retarded, schizophrenic monster wielding false authority is strangely relatable. Shinto made its son a woman, and now Japanese people won't reproduce, and they have hentai. And boy, do they have hentai. They have hentai like you wouldn't believe. It's anime porn, if for some reason you didn't know that in the modern year. Light-wielding heroes, false gods, giant serpents, the sun, eternal fire. We have these stories that we've told ourselves for so long that it's possible that we've forgotten that they aren't mere stories. What's interesting about them is what they say about the people telling them. They are symbolic in how they're told. The theme of divine spark and stolen fire may just refer to early man finding fire after lightning strikes and claiming the flame for himself, but the framing implies a belief that humans are in possession of something from beyond. And whether a belief is factually correct or not isn't what matters. What's significant is recognizing that people act on their beliefs. This is why politics are fake and gay, by the way. It is just secular religion with no metaphysics to justify the oughts that they propose. By the way, this is why politics are fake and gay. It's secular religion without any of the metaphysics to justify the oughts that they propose. I got an ought for you. Fucking double ought. Cue the sound of a gun racking. Cut to ISIS execution footage. Beyond shared themes, there is a consistency in recognizing a correspondence between material and spirit, with varying reception and presentation of that arrangement. Gnostics characterize material as outright antagonistic of spirit, whereas Hermetists don't really have much of a value judgment about it, but do express the plane of spirit as being one higher than material. Both share a dualistic cosmology. Less spiritually, there is mental dualism, which proposes that mental phenomenon is not reducible to material interaction, but doesn't necessarily admit spiritual phenomenon. As an alternative, there is monism. Most commonly, this would be material monism, the belief that everything can be reduced to material interaction with material things. I don't listen to value judgments from anyone in this camp, and you shouldn't either. If we're all just electrified meat, and that's all it is, then there's no free will. It's all just a big Rube Goldberg machine made of atoms colliding, and nobody's accountable for anything. Get naked, go wild, I'll see you outside! Finally, there's spiritual monism. For someone like Baruch Spinoza, everything is composed of God. To the pantheist, study of matter is ultimately study of a spiritual substance that pervades everything. So monists might object to the material world being made of symbols. They'd say it's made of whatever thing they're into. They would not deny that the world has been interpreted and represented symbolically by man, however. No matter where you're at on this list, the body's important. It could be your avatar, that which you're in possession of. It could be your flesh prison for your divine spark. It could be all that you are. In their own way, each of these views imply material, and by extension, the body is meaningful or important in some way. Manly P. Hall said, somewhere within the microcosm which is man, all of the processes of the macrocosm are unfolding. He explains that early man, having no written history to consult, had only the body as a tool to understand the world around him. The primacy and immediacy of personal bodily experience accounts for what he calls an increased factor of thought, because humans from this time could only function through their own thoughts and initiative. For early man and the world of tradition, our anatomy rendered itself as a cipher to the mysteries of the world around us. The second principle of Hermeticism states, as above, so below. I know, edgelords and alt-girls have really paused that expression. Paused. P-O-Z-Z-E-D. Paused. Look it up. Means it's got AIDS. If we accept this correspondence between the small and the large, material and spirit, then we also accept the same relationship between the body and soul. Far from an arbitrary husk, or a slave to the mind or spirit, the body should be considered part of the same whole. As the body is responsible for housing the mind and spirit, we must appreciate the feedback loop that exists between those planes. And we ought to consider the ways in which a person's mind or spirit might be reflected in their body. Symbolism extends far beyond marks, insignias, and emblems. We have the ability to imbue things with meaning, and that goes beyond graphic symbols. Obviously, our body is a symbol for, us. But a person can come to represent more than just themselves. A person can make a symbol of themselves. Gandhi is well known for his campaign of non-violent protests against British colonialism and has become a symbol for pacifist resistance. Now that makes him even more interesting to me as a symbol, because Gandhi actually practiced a very deceptive form of violence. Incurring harm on yourself and holding your opposition accountable is not pacifism. It's essentially emotional blackmail that relies on an enemy having a certain level of conscience and, let's be real, concern for optics. As a more extreme equivalent, there's that monk whose name I have a hard time with. Thich Nhat Hanh? The guy who self-immolated. You know him. More accurately, both of these guys could be classed as martyrs. Obviously, if all your guys burn themselves to death, you actually just lose. You get conquered by guys with dustpans and brooms. But just the one guy was very effective, ostensibly even more so than direct resistance. Both of these men made symbols of themselves through the actions that they took. And I think it's fair to say that both men performed magic. Aleister Crowley, for whatever you might think of him, offers up a solid working definition of magic. You gotta put that K on there. You gotta put that K on there so you know it's that good shit, that esoteric shit. It is the science and art of causing change to occur in conformity with the will. Symbolism extends to action as well. Obviously, this is how we might understand ritual, action or performance steeped in meaning and intent. So this is not my idea. I did not come up with this. I stumbled across this dude that I thought was badass, and I decided to adopt his ritual. I am primitive man, receiving fire secondhand from the guy that ran out to the field and picked it up after lightning struck. Now, I don't know if he wants to be associated with me or this, and so I'm not going to name drop him. I also have no idea where he's gone, though. And I can't seem to find wherever he is. And wherever he is, I hope his fire is still burning strong, and I hope to see it spread to others as it did to me. So I'm obligated to talk about it. Now, I want to be clear. When I use the term ritual, it's not new age or ironic. It does inform the mentality best used to approach this with. To think of this as more than perfunctory habit. To treat this with the discipline and seriousness that you would approach matters of the spirit with. Because the body corresponds to the spirit as the microcosm to the macrocosm. The foundational fitness ritual. It is perspiration, preparation, and prayer. It's a daily 30 minutes of burpees. Now, I don't necessarily want this to turn into, I don't know, like 30-minute abs. Is that what I am doing that. We are doing that? Okay, that's fine. Fuck it. It's 30-minute abs with me, Magnus von Sundude. I'm a totally different guy now, transformed by the power of calisthenics. I pray for a better world while I'm doing this, and so far it still sucks every time I'm done. But things are at least that much better for my improvement, and my ability to struggle in the suck world is that much greater. The expectations for the burpee are a full push-up. Your chest should touch the ground, abs remain engaged, feet remain together, butt cheeks engaged as you squat up, hip thrust at the top, no jump, as many reps as possible, and the minimum goal is 330 minutes. And as I said, I did not come up with this. I am just emulating someone that I saw and admired, and who was already applying these strictures, these rules, to themselves. Now, rather than devote time to instruction on the mechanics of the burpee, I'm going to leave that up to you to seek out for yourself. Instead, I want to talk abs and abstraction for a moment. We find muscular physiques attractive because they speak to a certain level of discipline and work performed by the individual. We know this implicitly, and the fitness industry uses that to project a superficial image to people. They sell people on looking a certain way rather than being a certain way. If your primary motivation for fitness is to look like something, I do not recommend the foundational fitness ritual. It is not for you. Now, imagine this. Christopher Columbus and a bunch of Spanish noblemen are at a party. And he's hanging with the boys. And one of them says something like, and I'm paraphrasing here, "You ain't big dick swanging just because you came across the Americas. Someone else would have done it eventually." Now Columbus keeps his cool. And he motions to eggs that are conveniently nearby. And he says, "Oh, you think you're hot shit, huh?" Again, I am paraphrasing. "Make this egg stand up on its tip." Everyone's standing around trying to make an egg stand up. And it's not working. And Columbus casually walks up. He wraps the tip of the egg on the table, and it stands up without a problem on its tip. It's obvious to do this, but only because you saw someone else doing it. And so for me, this was kind of a Columbus egg. All you need to get in shape is 30 minutes in a flat patch of ground. Of course that's all you need. Of course that's all you need. This is an extremely simple form of fitness. It allows for a very high level of flexibility in where and when you perform it, while rigidity is expressed in adherence to the frequency and amount of time practiced. Now, Listen, if you already have a fitness regimen that works for you, that's great. But the average person doesn't. I didn't. I have casually and occasionally lifted weights off and on throughout my life. Manual labor has been a source of fitness for me. I have done push-ups occasionally, never cardio. So I spent a few months going to the gym 3 days a week, and I was following a basic bitch strength training program. And then I came across the foundational fitness ritual. I tried it immediately, and I gave up after several minutes. And here's what I think. I think that if 30 minutes of burpees kicks your ass, then doing it every day is superior to whatever your current regimen is. Drop your gym membership, spend the money on ammo, and if you do not own a gun, sell your gaming console and buy one. This isn't a replacement for something like powerlifting or bodybuilding. I actually think those things are neat, but for me, they'd be surrogate activities. This is about developing a high caliber of general athleticism. A guy should be able to wear several pounds on his chest, pick up 100 pounds, and run with it no problem. A guy should be able to pick up the duffel bag in the bank heist scene from Heat. A guy should be able to reenact the blockbuster film Heat with his friends. I'm not advocating bank robbery, but I am implying it's one of the cooler crimes that you can commit. Now, why burpees? Well, because they can be done in one spot, anywhere, anytime. They require no equipment, and they work pretty much your whole damn body. And when I say you can do them anywhere, you really can. You can do them in jail. I was in jail for a week, and I did 3,300 of them. You can do them when you roll out of a girl's bed. And they're into that at first. And then the novelty wears thin when they realize it's for a full 30 minutes, and it's every day. You can do them out in the woods. Creatures of the forest will watch you from afar, probably in fear, and they consider that territory marked, I bet. You have 30 minutes. Everyone has 30 minutes that they can spare. It completely removes any excuses not to work out. In the last year that I've done this, I've missed around 40 days total. Half of that is from genuine illness and injury, and the other half is purely lack of discipline. No excuse. And fatigue and soreness do not count as injury. Now, touching on the subject of injury, I should mention I have a slap tear. I have had occasional chronic pain in my hip and lower back. Neither of these things were agitated by doing burpees. In the case of the slap tear, I have the least pain and greatest mobility that I've had in years. The only joint pain I experience now is when I inhale ash because the roach is too small. And here's the part where I say, I am not a doctor. Don't fuck yourself up. Now, the first time I actually attempted the full 30 minutes, even hitting 200 was difficult. After 3 months, I found myself hitting 300 consistently. After 6 months, I tried them for an hour and I hit 683. The day after, I kept my floor with 302. I want to be clear, I'm not bragging. I'm average. The only difference between me and any other guy is 30 minutes a day. Now, this is from the first day I started performing burpees daily. I'm like 150 pounds here. I took this immediately after doing 197 burpees. Now here's what I looked like 8 months into adopting the foundational fitness ritual. I'm about to go outside to do burpees in my cool headband that I just got. Sorry I look like a goober here, and I didn't match the first picture. I wasn't expecting for anyone but me to see this, but I'm trying to show them receipts, you know? Now, I took this before I started trying to gain weight. I'm about 160 pounds in this picture. Then, I decided to get one matching everything as closely as possible from just now, basically, when I thought to do this and edit it in. I took this immediately after eating teriyaki and drinking a soda. My weight is about 166 pounds, and I did 311 burpees that morning. Diet is obviously a factor, so I feel obligated to disclose mine. Over the course of the year that I did this, I ramped my caloric consumption up from what was probably about 2,400 on an average day to about 3,000. When I'm not being a shit pig, my diet consists of a lot of eggs, chicken, and whole milk. Vegans, please don't chew me out. Actually, I guess you're not even allowed to do that. Now, normally, I do eat a lot of bread, pasta, and rice. I enjoy grain, even though I'm pretty sure its intergenerational cultivation and consumption has made us more slavish as a species. And as an aside, while I'm here, I am calling on Big Noodle to stop tricking people into thinking that couscous isn't just pasta. I thought it was like quinoa, some kind of grain. It's just pasta particulate. Anytime I'm in the same room as a piece of fruit, I eat it. I like bananas. I'm going to miss them for a while when the lights go out. There will be a premium on fresh bananas. Actually, I think bananas stay good for a while if you don't gas them. They gas the bananas that you buy at the store so that they ripen faster. It's bananas in striped pajamas. I rarely eat green vegetables. A couple times a week, maybe. Pickles all day though, if that makes any sense. I try to drink a gallon of water a day. Some days I do that. Some days I drink soda. My Osmosis Jones brain mayor hits the sugar craving button when I'm thirsty. Drinking soda is basically retarded. I should know. I do it. The main problem there is high fructose corn syrup. And think about it. Corn is government subsidized feed for livestock, and soda is basically fizzy livestock juice. Still, it might be better for you than tap water, unless you crave SSRIs and a sex change. So I consume junk food, I drink, I smoke weed regularly, lately even more so. I'm not advocating this stuff. These are all vices, and in some way each detract from my physical performance, which means that they detract from more than that as well. Now, having a daily performance-based number as a metric to actually see the impact that diet and drugs had on me is kind of cool. I already knew that vice is just enjoyable self-harm, but this made that very clear. And I'm disclaiming these vices to illustrate that I'm an average guy. I am far from an austere, ascetic monk. Adding the foundational fitness ritual without any other lifestyle changes still greatly improved my athleticism. But obviously, better diet and less poison got me better output. Over the course of a year, my performance has been greatest on average when I was consuming little to no drugs and maintained a diet that contained very little junk food. During this time, I found my average to be roughly 330. When piling poison into my body and getting irregular sleep, 300 was occasionally difficult to maintain. I actually went out of my way to drink and consume more marijuana than usual, sleep less than usual, and eat shittier, and I paid for all of that. My bad habits tarnished my good discipline. The ritual became higher effort, and my bad habits became easier to embrace. And there was a clear line drawn between my habits and my rituals. My habits I put very little thought into. I just happened to repeat them regularly. Habit is often performed for the sake of itself, without any intent. Burpees are not a habit for me. I have to make the decision to do them every day. Some days it's harder than others. But something became very clear to me over the last year that I spent ritualizing fitness. The version of me doing 30 minutes of burpees a day is better than the one that isn't. It's actually that simple. Stronger, healthier, greater stamina, more focused. All of these measurable physical effects are simply symbols derivative of discipline. Seeing this on myself made it click for me in a way that it never had before. Ourselves as symbols, well, our bodies anyway. Would it be fair to look at the average body in the United States as a symbol of our time? Fat, bloated, somehow overfed and undernourished. These people are the microcosm to the macrocosm of the sick, bloated slave state we live in now. That body, those people, don't enjoy liberty. They enjoy comfort and permissiveness. Obesity is an obvious symbol of decadent excess. And miss me with that health at every size bullshit. And you will miss me, because you can't catch me, fatty. If I've spent time talking the talk about the will and personal discipline required for a natural law society, my commitment to ritualized fitness was a chance to walk the walk. The body of a free person should reflect the care, dedication, and will required to live free. Now, I don't want to see the best among us starve themselves or light themselves aflame. I want them prepared. I want them hardened for the struggle ahead. And when I perform the foundational fitness ritual, that's what's on my mind. It's a constructive, symbolic expression of my desire not only to be better, but see the world made better. Hard times demand a hard body. And I do believe that we're in for hard times. The symbols are there, if you know where to look. I'll just be real here. We're living in the decline phase of the current U.S. Republic. I'm not telling people shit they don't know by saying that. I will take that one step further and venture to say that at 31, I will get to witness some form of collapse in my lifetime. And that's a huge impetus for being in shape. Read into that however you want. The average person is indolent, indigent, ignorant, and unhealthy. Our political representatives are sclerotic, geriatric, and when they aren't outright evil, stupid beyond belief. This form is calcified. Our fate is set in stone. But your will is a chisel. So get out there and get chiseling. I'll see you out there. Thank you for listening.